So, the cool thing about this assignment is it really doesn't take very much practice to quickly get better at this important creative writing skill. So we're going to practice describing characters in a cool, unique, interesting way. So we're going to start just kind of like yesterday. I'm going to give you a lot of options. You only have to do some of them. I'm going to give you some good examples so that you know what to work towards. And then I'm going to set you loose, okay? So it says here, having interesting character descriptions really is a way to make your creative writing take it to the next level. So here are some examples from some real authors. Raise your hand if you know even a little bit about Harry Potter. Most people know at least a little bit, right? And in Harry Potter, and it's okay if you don't, in Harry Potter, there's a character who's literally a giant. But if J.K. Rowling had just said, hey, that dude's big, is that creative? No, it's not creative. So here's how she creatively described him. Yep, J.K. Rowling is an author, so she wrote this. So she said, if the motorcycle was huge, it was nothing to the man sitting astride it. I'm going to skip ahead. His hands were the size of trash can lids, and his feet in their leather boots were like baby dolphins. What do you think? Is that a more creative way of saying that guy's really big? Yeah, that's way more creative. Okay, here's another one. And on this example, so science fiction is often not very funny. Science fiction sometimes is very serious, but this is a cool science fiction story that's actually out loud ha-ha funny. So if you want to read a really, really good one, it's got aliens and it's so fun. It's called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's a movie, but there's also a really great book. So in this book, there's aliens. And instead of just being like, look, an alien, weird. That's not creative. So instead, my favorite line is right here. His skin seemed to be pulled backward from the nose. Can you picture that? That is a very creative description. His skin seemed to be pulled backward from the nose. What a cool creative way of saying somebody looks weird. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn our screens around at this point, now that you've had plenty of time. So 3, screens facing me, 2, and 1. Okay, we didn't quite make it. Help your neighbors. If you see your neighbor isn't turning their screen around quick, then the whole class gets more candy. Okay, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is a very typical fantasy novel. The descriptions are a little bit more fancy. So in this one, you've got an elf who's been alive for 1,000 years. And so the description is much more fancy. And my favorite line on this one is his hair was as dark as the shadows of twilight. That is creative. Instead of just like, hey, you have dark hair. Nope, it's as dark as the shadows of twilight when the sun is starting to set. So on this one, this novel, there was a character who's depressed, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's a normal part of being human sometimes. But it's not a creative way of saying that. So instead, this creative writer said, she looked like she was holding the universe together. That's a beautiful way of saying you've got a lot on your mind. You look like you're holding the universe together. Okay, now we've seen some good examples. Let me show you what you're going to do. I had fun Googling the weirdest ideas I could possibly come up with. Some of them are funny, some of them are not, some of them are old, some of them are young, some of them are famous, some of them are not, some of them have cool colors, some of them don't. But I tried to get a huge variety. And just like yesterday, you're going to be, this is your inspiration, okay? So, your job, no matter what today, is that you're going to describe what these characters look like. That's your number one goal. What does that character look like? And I want you to do something a little bit weird. I want you to pretend that there is a person who is blind and someone is reading them your story. They're reading them your description. So that blind person cannot see these pictures. They don't see it. All they have are your creative descriptions. That's how to make this really, really awesome. So you're describing what they look like, and to get an A on this easy assignment, you're going to pick 5 pictures, 2 sentences each. And you're focusing on what they look like. 5 pictures, 2 sentences each. So then the last thing before I set you loose, so screen's facing me still. So see how this box is on every single slide again? So on this one, if you only describe what they look like, you're not going to get as creative as fast. So you are required every single description to switch it up. So maybe let's say on the first one, you choose to do number 1. I'm just going to do a basic description. But maybe on number 2, my favorite one to do number 2 with is this one. You would still describe what that character looks like, but what if they're the villain? What if they're the evil character in the story? Think of how much knowing that they're evil would change the description of what they look like. And then same with number 3. You're still describing what they look like, but what if they're actually the hero? They're actually saving the world. It would change your description of what they look like. Number 4 is my absolute favorite. So number 4 says, just pretend they have flaws and describe just the flaws. So flaws are maybe something that makes you slightly imperfect. All of us have flaws. So for example, my older sister Sarah, she has a big mole on her cheek. And that's the first thing everybody notices about her. But then they notice how beautiful she is too. But it makes her memorable, right? You remember, oh yeah, she was that girl with the big mole on her cheek. Like this guy, he's got really interesting hair, right? He's from Seinfeld. So in Harry Potter, like Harry himself, he was supposed to have hair that never laid flat. That was his flaw, but it also made him stand out. Ron had really bright red hair, and he also had so many freckles that it really made him memorable. Hermione was supposed to have this big, bushy, crazy hair. And all of those kinds of things are the things that make us memorable. So on number 4, describe just their flaws. Number 5 is the one to do if you want to impress me, because number 5 is the hardest. On number 5, let me get a different picture on this one. Number 5 says pick one feature, describe that one feature and nothing else for 2 whole sentences. So for example, maybe they have really cool looking nostrils or really interesting ears, which means you creatively, this is a challenge. You would have to describe just like the ears and nothing else for 2 whole sentences in the most creative way you could. That's a challenge. Number 6 is usually a favorite, especially like on someone that's silly like this. Like 6, make it as creepy of a description as you can. Still describing what they look like, but make it really creepy. Almost done. On number 7, pick one that has a lot of colors and describe just the colors. And here's the trick on number 7. If you write something like red and white, I would be like, no, that's not creative. But what if it's red like the moment before the sun sets for the evening? Or what if it's bone white, not just white? So colors are a really easy way to immediately take your rating to the next level. And the very last one, pick one that has cool clothes and describe just the clothes and nothing else. So I am going to grade this a little bit tough because now you've been in creative writing for a little while. So I expect your character descriptions to be interesting, unique, and creative. I want you to push yourself a little bit. The other thing that you won't get an A, if you keep doing the same type of description, I'm not going to give you full points. And then last thing is, how many pictures do you have to do? 5. How many sentences each? 2. And then raise your hand if yesterday on the hook practice, raise your hand if you saw that I made a comment that I gave you a bunch of coins. Yeah. So I keep doing that all the time. And once you raise them in, I'll fix it. Right? I keep giving coins all day, every day. So this is another really easy one. That 5 pictures, 2 sentences is going to go fast. So do more until our magic time, which is what time in 4th period? 12:28. And I'll come around with lots of rewards. You